Hello there, good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. It's a pleasure to welcome you back here on the channel. Now, I know we are just off the back of that heavy defeat to Midtjylland, and I know that every other podcast and their granny are out there, and I also know some of you will be lying about it, but Rangers are on and they're getting beat 1-0 so far, and I know you might just be wanting to watch that and all. So whether you're watching live, whether you're watching it retrospectively, it doesn't matter. Thank you for joining us here on the channel. We are also simultaneously streaming onto TikTok. Paddy is live. You can see his big, beautiful vlog on there, and you'll be able to hear maybe my dulcet tones over there as well. So we're trying to reach as many people as we can. We'll be doing that going forward, trying to get into all our social media destinations and kicking it off. As always, I'm joined by my right-hand man. It is Paddy Boy. Paddy is going to be a post-match, post-mortem, I think, because as it says on the tagline there, harsh reminder, Midtjylland 3, Celtic 1, and this is our live reaction. Immediately after it, we're tearing off the elastoplast, we're getting it over and done with. And I think, Paddy, that despite the positivity around about the temporary managerial regime, the reality remains that I think it could have been any manager, but with that squad, it's always going to be a big ask. I think that Midtjylland in years gone by, and even if we had a suitably good squad, you would probably be looking at this game and saying, I don't care if they're top of the Europa League, I don't care if they're flying high domestically, we should be beating teams like this. But it was just another hurdle, and maybe it was another game that was just a wee bit too big, too soon for this current regime, and underlines, Paddy, that there is still plenty of work to be done, and the urgency and importance of getting this new manager in soon, getting it right, and then pushing on in January is bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah, listen, it's massive, mate, and we spoke about this game last night, and as everybody knows who watches the podcast, I'm normally the guy who's quite positive, and quite happy going into games saying that we'll do this and we'll do that, but this is one for me, mate, that I was reserved. I said I thought it would have been a draw. I thought we would have performed a little bit better. Conceding 2 goals in like 90 seconds, like Robertson says there, for me was just unforgivable. When you concede a goal, you're at your and the other teams are at the most dangerous, and that's when you need to screw the head and actually dig down. And we didn't do that, mate. It was it was poor. It was lackluster. I liked it. There was a few good performances in there. Even defensively, although we get beat 3-1. I know we'll cover that later on. But I mean, let us know in the chat who you thought was a standout today, even in a poor game. Do you know what I mean? There was standouts in there. There really was. You've got to try and take positives for every game. And I think from that, even though it was a defeat to a decent enough side. And I know what you're going to say, Steve. You're going to talk about Hibs, and obviously a team that had to go extra time to beat Hibs and stuff like that. But I understand, and I think there is a lot of positives to take from it. I really, really do. People in the chat here are saying it's such a shame for Callum Osmond, and do you know what? That's a feel use. I really, really do. It's a massive, massive loss for us.
Absolutely, Paddy. Listen, we'll do as we always do on these post-match. Now, the last 2 games with the action to talk about, with some highlights to talk about, and we've kind of been able to focus a wee bit on the performances and the action as such. I think it's a wee bit of a different one. It's maybe a wee bit of a return, unfortunately, to some of the grimmer shows that we've had to do this season. But as she says, we'll take it at face value and we'll discuss through it. But nothing too much massive to write home about, nothing to get overly excited about, or at the same time get completely down in the dumps about. I think certainly after everything that's happened with the managerial situation, with the general forum, I think very quickly, whether we want to admit it or not, Europe would have been quickly written off, and it was a case of damage limitation, trying to get through that, trying to give the best account, pick up some points if you can, maybe scrape through. But bear in mind, once the time the transfer window opens, Europe's pretty much all but done. So you're stuck where you got there. Expectations were low. Focus was always going to be on trying to drag yourself back into the title race. We find ourselves in a domestic cup final and kick on from there, and at least try to get the domestic house in order. Europe being a bit of a side distraction just because we're decimated, the squad's so thin, and everything else in. So we'll get into that as we do. But just as always, the wee bit of housekeeping at the front end as we always do. If you're listening on TikTok and watching Paddy, beautiful. The numbers on there are pumping. We're loving it. as we said, we put out a video, transfer over, help us out. If you're watching, get onto the YouTube, hit the subscribe button, costs you nothing, helps us out. We are so close to that 3,000 mark, and we hope to get there. So if you're watching casual on YouTube, what you doing? Hit the subscribe, it costs you nothing. Absolutely everything's free here. All our links are below for all our other social media. We're currently live on X, we're currently live on TikTok, as well as here, our main home destination, which is YouTube. So support the channel if you can. Paddy boy, let's get down to business, mate. Let's do our usual jump off point, which is, of course, the lineup to start with. Now, I had a wee look at this. It was good to see guys like Trusty. We'll touch on him again. I think he gave a decent account for himself again, despite the scoreline. Was there any real surprises in that squad for you? I mean, personally, looking at it, I thought the fact that we've jumped in with, Forrest back into the squad, I did find that a wee bit strange. And I know that Tuneki has been the sort of main threat, but yeah, you know what? He's been up and down. And finally, for me, the only other thing really was the reintroduction of Kieran Tierney so swiftly. I mean, did you really expect that, to be honest with yourself? I know that Sarachi had maybe a wee bit of a knock, and maybe that's why it's been. I was just quite surprised that we threw back in Tierney and we threw back in Forrest, to be totally honest, mate.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. The rest of the team pretty much picked itself. For me, everybody else was... You could have wrote them all down. Tierney coming back in, I think, again, like you said, Steve, because Sarachi took that little knock, I think it was just giving him a wee rest, giving him a wee time to recoup. But listen, if he started, it's one that you would have fully expected him to go at it. I thought Kieran Tierney played all right as well. I thought Kieran had a good game. He was up against your man in Babu, who was doing quite a lot of bad mouthing before the game, obviously ex-Rangers player as well. So Kieran was up against him.
He got kicked high at the end by Bernardo, and guess what? It wasn't a sending off, because they're not all sending off, by the way. Just wanted to go that in there.
Exactly, that's it. And you talk about Tuneki as well. Tuneki deserved his place in the squad. He's probably one of our best players. And at the beginning of the game as well, he was probably the most positive player as well going forward. Yeah. James Forrest, obviously starting on the other wing. I don't know, I would maybe have started with Dyson. I thought when Dyson played against the Baddies in the semi-final, I thought Dyson played really well.
Absolutely.
So that's the one for me. Johnny Kenny, again, done enough to keep his place in that squad. Johnny Kenny's been incredible since Martin O'Neill's come in and given him that opportunity. So I feel like there wasn't any real surprises in there other than James Forrest and Kieran Tierney.
And what a weight is going to be now, unfortunately, on the shoulders of Johnny Kenny. We saw Osmond coming in out the cold, fantastic, absolutely gutted for him. It's disastrous. 4 days later, and the poor lad's getting stretchered off, clearly in tears. It looked serious, with these hamstrings. You're talking a couple of months. It is the last thing Celtic needed at this moment in time. We've absolutely nothing. We'd be desperate for some sort of update on Iheanacho. But again, opportunity knocks. We kind of thought that when Osman get reintroduced at the lesser seen Shin Ramada, deed and buried, it was gone. You're out of there. See you later, mate. Clearly, you're not good enough. Well, as we said, beggars can't be choosers. So now's your time, Shin Yamada, because guess what, son? You will be getting called upon. And I don't know, Paddy, if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm going to go try and look at it with a positive spin and say it's a good thing, because the last time we plucked Osmond out of thin air, well, he went and done something about it. Unfortunately, his emergence has been short-lived, and we need to move on to the next one. We need to get what we've got at our disposal in and about the squad. So we'll see how that goes. But listen, let's just jump in about it. You text me early on the game, and your last team look excellent. And I'll be honest with you, I was a wee bit dismissive, because I had my playing Hibs earlier in the season sort of head on, and looking at it and going, they're at home, they're riding the crest of the wave, they're top of their group, they've scored a lot of goals, they're doing well domestically. What do you expect? That's what I was at with it. You said they've had loads of shots at goal, and I says that doesn't constitute that you're a brilliant team. Now, I do want to caveat it, and this isn't me trying to diminish their achievements or indeed deflect from the severity of the result in our part. I think they are clearly a very well drilled, well organised team. They're well put together, and much like we talk about teams like Club Brugge, Bodo Glimt, They are good players. They have superstars. No one will touch on a wee bit of their signing policies and stuff, but they have good players. They're obviously well organised, well scouted, and they are put together to do a job. Now, as I said at the top of the show, had this been a season, 2 seasons ago, or even off the back of us actually doing our business, would I be sitting here and giving as many allowances for them? No, I wouldn't. I'd be saying, expect us to go and beat them. I mean, looking at them there, in the past 3 seasons, they've spent about 48.4 million euros. You know, they just do things a wee bit better than us, it would appear, mate, by spending money.
Yeah, 44, that's about 3 players for us, isn't it? That's us going out there and overpaying for folk. But listen, like they said, their business model seems really, really good. Tucker on the TikTok here, he's put his good players and they're very well managed. Totally agree with you. Like I say, Steve, well, that first 20 minutes, I think I looked at the shots and it was something like 22 on target for them. Not 22 on target, sorry, 22 shots.
Yeah.
Probably about maybe, 10 of them on target. And we were about 3. And I know what you're saying. That doesn't constitute them to be a good team, but it just shows that the pressure that Celtic were under at that point. And then I think the reason that they beat us was more quality over quantity. Do you know what I mean? No, quantity over quality. Do it the opposite way. Like obviously,
quality over quantity.
It was quantity over quality. It was the opposite way, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes,
they basically hammered us and hammered us and hammered us until they got the goals. They weren't brilliant. They weren't out there to. I think a kind of decent Celtic team would have took them a wee bit further. We made mistakes. We get caught off guard a few times as well. Obviously with the goals, which I think we'll touch on, some poor decisions defensively. But going into it, I thought Austin Trusty was actually really good. I thought he did a decent game. I thought the one where Tony Ralston takes the ball straight in the face, as the Bricky does, he just sat there and took it straight in the cup. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And that's what I want my defenders to be doing. I want to be putting their bodies on the line. And that's the second time Tony Ralston's done that. Obviously, he got a penalty gave against him the last time for diving in front of a ball, but it just shows that he's willing to the bricky pun again, run through a brick wall for Celtic. It really is.
I mean, I've got my thoughts on Ralston. We'll move on to it. Just to touch on what he says, I thought that in the opening 20 minutes, it was just like, oh, my God, here we go. This is going to be one of the nights. You know that way you just got that really, really unfortunate feeling where you're sitting there and going, right, okie doke, this is rough as a badger's arse. They've got all the ball. We're chasing shadows. And I don't necessarily know if it's to do with just how organised and up for it they were. I don't necessarily think you can... I see folk and we're quite reactionary. And I suppose you've got to be. We've been sat on here and we praised the impact of the likes of Fozzie and Maloney and how we looked a lot tidier in the past 2 games, right? For me, that suddenly doesn't get taken away. It doesn't get diminished because of one result, right? I really don't think that. I think that there's a step up definitely between Falkirk, clearly, and also Rangers, right? Rangers have went and bought a lot of players, for example, but fundamentally, they're still a poor squad, right? And they are still a team that are trying to recover from an absolute shit show, as are we, to be honest with you. Whereas Midtjylland, deep into their season, they are well versed, they've got it together, and as people have said on the TikTok and in the comments, a very cohesive team. They know what they're doing, they're well drilled, and I would expect that from them. It very much was a tale of 2 teams. We've had our wee bounce, and sometimes things are a bridge too far. That opening 20-25 minutes, we were absolutely, it was, you know, all hands to the pump for them. We were under the cosh. We were just, you felt it was going to be damage limitation. I don't think we helped ourselves. I don't think we were aggressive enough in the midfield. We did eventually, and it was very, very little, but slightly got a bit more of a foothold in the middle of the pitch. But we were chasing shadows for the best part of it. And I do want to come into it, and some of the mentions of the team. You mentioned Anthony Ralston. I've mentioned them. The comments are mentioning Tierney, and I don't want to hone in and single out individual, but I thought both of them were extremely, extremely poor. Yes, he takes one in the face, but Tony Ralston, as good as he was in his fight, you know, driven he was against Rangers, it's times like this, that certain step up where you just go, he's just all right. And that's when you really realise why our lack of business in the transfer window, our short-sightedness, our failure to get what was needed done, comes back and haunts you in spades, mate.
Yeah.
2 goals in 90 seconds. For me, Ralston is culpable for 2 of them in terms of, and I put it in the group chat, what is it about Celtic fullbacks? Is it an alien concept to commit to your man? They always back off, running backwards, arms behind the back, don't want to commit. Come into your box, please. Cross the ball. There you go, 1-0. And then between him and Engels, shambolic, same stuff, backing off, arms behind the back, feared to commit. Guy waltzes into the box and curls one in. It's a great goal, but self-inflicted garbage by not showing that aggression, not showing that commitment. It's almost as if they went, oh no, this is Europe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand, mate. And it's one of the things, it frustrates the life out of me as well when you see a winger, especially somebody that's got a decent delivery, swanning out there and just walking into the box, like you say, as they back off. But the other option is you try and attack them and they just hit the deck.
You could have drove an Arctic lorry through that defence on the right hand side for those 2 goals.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I say. Like, we did have some good points. I think Tony Ralston had a few in that game, but the points where we made the mistakes, they capitalised on them, and that's European football for me. You can make the mistakes against Falkirk, you can make the mistakes against the Rangers, you can make them against Aberdeen, Hibs, whoever. But as soon as you go into a European competition and you make one mistake, you're going to get punished for it, and that's what happens. These guys aren't there just to make up the numbers. They're there on merit. They're sitting top of the pile, Steve. Do you know what I mean? They're a decent outfit. They're one of the mobs that, listen, I think they've been underestimated in this because of the way they qualified, because of the way they come through. They're very, very well drilled. They're very well drilled. They play great attacking football. The boy Francolino, oh my God.
Mate, free transfer.
I know, I seen you put that in the chat. What is that all about? Free transfer for Benfica, was it?
Yes.
Oh my God, to bring in somebody like him, he's just absolutely outstanding. They'll sell him for 20, 25 million easily.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Absolutely fantastic talent. As we are quite a lot of the youngsters as well, and they are youngsters. I think the combined age of that squad was something like 28, which when you think about it, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, Paddy, you look at the side, right? Okay, they were all over us up until the point of they score, and then boom, there's another one. The game's dead within the opening 35 minutes, and that's ridiculous to think. It was very much like an old school, dare I say it, Celtic away performance, where it was just boom, 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 have some of that, and you're done. Did I think that they would have clawed their way back in the game? We got a late penalty, we'll talk about that. Did I think that we were going to claw our way back into the game and it was going to be a hard luck story? No, I didn't. I just didn't feel that we had enough in the tank. We were getting chased about all over the place. I think that, again, despite the scoreline, as you said, defensively, I don't think Trusty and Scales were particularly bad. I thought they were all right. My biggest failing was the midfield. I thought the midfield was very, very poor. And again, our fullbacks, Tierney and Ralston, I thought were miles off it again. Really, really disappointing. And again, I'm seeing some comments and it is unfashionable. We're not going to jump on players, but people are rightly, as I says, singling out Ralston for the 2 early goals. That absolutely kills us. And even to an extent, Tierney, that it's not the Tierney that we've got before. You saw the difference in levels when we had Sarashi in the team the past couple of games. And I hate to say it, but it's true. It was a massive drop-off, mate, no having him there.
Aye, it was, mate. And listen, do you know who I blame for tonight's defeat, mate? I blame the board for not investing in the club. And that's what it's going to come down to. You can highlight players, you can say, he had a Snyder, he had a Snyder, he had a Snyder. Yes, that's always going to happen. Not everybody is going to turn up every single week. I thought Celtic played okay. I thought we got found out at some points. I just thought we came up against a better side tonight. I think even a Celtic team performing as we did at the weekend or as we did against Falkirk, I think would have maybe got out of that with a draw. And that's me watching it without my green glasses on. I just think they were a really decent side, mate. And like I say, there's positives to take from it. Not a lot, but there are some. Johnny Kenny, I thought Johnny Kenny as well was one of these guys who tried a little bit, but didn't get the deliveries, didn't get the opportunities. And that's, again, down to how Midtjylland were playing. we didn't get many opportunities down the right, down the left. Taneki had a few times when he cut inside, but he's never really one who's going to look for a striker. He's always got the eye for a goal. Like I said, he's a kind of Aidan McGeady. He'll either kick the ball out of the park or cut inside for a shot. And that's just kind of the way the guy is. But yeah, like I said, mate, we'll take the positives from it. We'll try and keep the heads up. I've not seen any of the interviews yet with the players either.
No, of course, we've jumped straight on. Yeah, it's one of those ones again. I think we were riding the lightning, as we said, early on. Kasper Schmeichel does well. There's a couple of good saves. He's got a couple of good saves in there, you know. And I hate saying these kind of things. It could have been a lot worse if it wasn't for Kasper Schmeichel. You know, we sometimes often give him a right hard time. And recently, obviously this season, he's come in for a lot of criticism. I think he could be relatively happy with his performance. There's really not that much he can do regarding the goals. I feel that he gets pretty much sold out defensively. It's made far too easy for them. And that's the biggest problem I've got. I think when you look at it, we've got, in terms of squad, in terms of this temporary coaching staff we've got, yes, I think we need to make it abundantly clear, and the comments are saying this as well, right? This is no slant on Mahoney, it's no slant on Fotheringham, it's no slant on Martin O'Neill, St. Martin, right? But it does come home to roost. I won't have it that one of my mates says, right, this will put to bed any of this stuff, this Martin O'Neill dream stuff. We need to get somebody in. And I say to him, well, I think personally speaking, it could have been any manager tonight, and probably the result is the exact same. I said, it is a wee bit to do with just the situation that we find ourselves in. I don't want to go there and turn around and say a good manager gets the best out the squad that he's got, right? Because I've said that time, and that was one of my major criticisms, and it still is, and I stick by it, of Brendan Rodgers. Couldn't find a way to get a job done. The difference is that if Brendan Rodgers was there, that probably, in my opinion, would have been a lot worse. Because albeit we weren't on the front foot, we weren't being aggressive, we weren't committing as much, we would have been so much more passive under Rodgers. There's no doubt in my mind, and I'm not just saying that on some sort of bias here. I genuinely believe that. He's come in, Martin O'Neill, Maloney, they've tried to jig about the bits. They've tried to get the best out of what they have. And the reality is, the two matches that we really needed to win, the important ones, every match is important, but the two that you had to win, the League one and the Cup one, we've done it. Do I think there's enough in the squad under this regime to go on and swat aside domestically what we've got to January, whether it's going to be them to January or a new manager? Absolutely. Do I think that the squad has got enough in the tank to go into Europe? No, I don't. So I will say that on both. See, for all the criticism and saying an elite manager gets the best out of his squad, I am applying that on Brendan Rodgers pretty much solely to domestic stuff, because the domestic stuff was unacceptable. 2-0, love it. Yes. I've got a few bookmarks that come back to haunt you all. I'm looking at your dare roll soonest, trying to laugh. As I said, it's a bit like telling your mate his car's shite when you can't even drive. Sit down, keep your powder dry. You went too early, but sorry. I like to get that out there. But no, Paddy, the thing about the squad, sorry, I know I'm ranting away there. The thing about the squad, they're getting the best out. A good manager gets the best out of the squad. I'm talking domestically. I think whether it's Rodgers, whether it was bloody well Mourinho, whether it was Zidane, this squad with any manager in Europe, too much an ask.
Yeah, of course it is, mate. At the end of the day, you can only play with the team that you've got sitting there. And to be honest, Martin O'Neill, I think, has got the best out of a hell of a lot of the players. And we've seen that in the performances against Rangers and Falkirk. This week, he's been bigging up Kasper Schmeichel. He's been saying how much of an ambassador basically is in the dressing room, how good it is to have somebody there with that experience. This is a guy that turned 39 last week and is still at that stage of his career. Do you know what I mean? He's still playing at a European level. Going home for him as well, going back out to Denmark, I think would have been a big thing for him, and he'd have wanted to put on a performance. Yeah. He'd have wanted to be showing off basically what he can do. But listen, that mob tonight played really, really well. And I think, like you say, Steve, you spoke about a wee bit about their kind of transfer fees and stuff and kind of what they do, their kind of transfer structure. And I think it just shows up what we lack, what we haven't been doing.
Absolutely.
When we spoke about it before, one failed transfer window is 5 years to recoup. And this mob have got a structure together. They might not spend absolute fortunes, but the way they spend it is done the right way. So, fair play to them.
Well, Paddy, people maybe say it's not really much of a reaction because the reality is, what can we say? We were chasing shadows. We were totally anonymous. There was very little. And in fact, do you know what? Let's, for the balance of it, let's just smash them together. Let's just bring together first half and second half, as bad as it gets, right? You're getting beat, you're 3-0, you're getting horsed, you're getting hosed, you're done. Celtic just looked weak. We say this all the time. It continually is a recurring theme. See, when it gets to playing in Europe, Paddy, Celtic look meek. They look small. They don't look physically imposing. They don't look athletic. They don't look explosive. All these adjectives that folk use to talk about these European-style sides. Now, as we said, look at Midtjylland. They weren't big bruisers, but they all look athletic. They all look strong. They all look like they could get their way around the pitch. And it just is an eye-opener. And it comes back to this. And it really does come back to all of these results they totally hang on Celtic's transfer policy. What is Celtic's transfer policy? What is the profile of player that we look at, etc., etc.? Because you said, let's talk about Midtjylland's team. Yes, as I just said, over 3 seasons, 48.4 million euros. Obviously, that's kind of rough speak, and outgoings and sales, 50.4. So, they're not really making that much, but it appears that every penny that's going out the way, they're putting it straight back in with some clever scouting and at least trying to improve themselves. Where those scales will tip at one point, where some of these guys, like you say, Francolino, nothing, cost absolutely nothing, mate. How can Celtic not find these kind of guys?
Yeah, it's mad, mate, isn't it? And somebody on the TikTok is saying as well, they've got a wage bill of 12 million and only 12,000 fans in the stadium. I totally get it.
Crazy.
It's madness. And like you said, these guys, their scouting program must be brilliant. You look at the youth, you look at the kind of younger guys, especially the 3 strikers, the 3 boys up front. Absolutely brilliant, mate. They really come on and they really showed us basically what we're lacking. And it just shows the sheer discontent that our board have given us, that just that
Paddy,
lack of ambition.
So we were complaining about what we spent, which was peanuts, which was crap in the summer there, right?
Yeah.
They spent 10 million euros on 2 players. There was 2 undisclosed fees. That's in terms of their arrivals, right? And they had a couple of players brought back to them. In terms of departures, they sold a player for 8 million euros, one for 5, one for 2, and the rest were like under $1 million, 2 players, right? Brought about 16. Go back to the season before. They spent 18.2 million euros on a handful of players, and outgoing, they had 15 million euros. And then back to where the manager comes in, 23-24 season, they spend 20 million euros and bring in 18.1 million euros. Now, that's not a lot of money.
No.
That's just, and this comes back to, we talk about Sporting Lisbon, Club Brugge, even Union Saint-Gilloise, because again, they're using the whole Brighton thing, they're using the Hearts, the analytics, right? But clearly, if you have a system in place, you can get in good talent. Bodo Glimt and all, we always talk about them. They're always held up here in this high regard as being a perfect system. But I think what the secret to these teams is not the manager and the coaching and everything. Yes, they impose a style of play and they bring the flavour that you want to see. But it's a big package deal. It's a big package deal. As I said, you could parachute any Celtic manager into this current setup, this current regime, the way that we operate, and it's only going to be as good as the fire they can put in their belly. That's why Celtic need to revolutionise. We need to completely rip up everything and get with the modern way and try to be a bit more ambitious, because Celtic's transfer policy really is, unfortunately, the hindrance. And let's talk about, the glory of the nearly against Bayern Munich last season. Aye, that was good. But how much of that was maybe, as I said, just the fire in the belly for a manager and some extra players coming in? Because I didn't exactly think that, I was blown away with the transfers over that last season.
No, definitely not, mate. We need the competition in there. We need these players to know that they are not going to be the first name in the team sheet every single week. And even although, like you say, we were getting beat at half time. It was nice to see some changes actually made. We've not seen that in a while. We used to kind of joke, get into the 62nd minute, and you would go, oh, time for Brendan to make a substitute. And it exactly was, mate. So seeing players coming on at half time was really refreshing for me. Yes, it might not have had the end result that we wanted, but at the end of the day, we won the second half. I'm taking that as a moral victory. Can we get a trophy for that or something? Something?
I mean, and this is the thing, just bring it up there, Slaven Kowski can stop around about last season. Listen, by the way, I have said a million times over, see the whole last season, the nearly glory of Europe, I said it was frankly embarrassing. I hate it. See all this looking back, and the reality is you get beat, right? You get beat off Bayern Munich, but it gets held up as, look at what could have been. But see, when this is just me, and I'm maybe being extremely harsh, the romanticism of that result over the two legs, it wasn't really that great, was it, Paddy? I mean, come on, it was, we played well, but it wasn't like, oh my God, we had them in the ropes. Well, we didn't. We didn't. We were close to just seeing out a game and getting it to extra time and then a roll of dice to see where it goes. That's where I'm at with it. So I don't hold that up as some amazing thing. It's like, as I always say, it's like when folks celebrate the 2-1 against Barcelona, I'm like, sit down, come on, give us a break. Let's look forward. But no, I think the reason I'm talking about last season is I just think last season we performed well, but we probably punched above our weight because we could have been in a lot better shape with the squad even that season. And it was probably just a wee bit of whatever was going on with the manager, whatever was going on with the team at the material time. But when you strip that back and you move into another season, you don't, evolve it, you end up with the same results. We're shortchanged this season. We've got an absolute threadbare, guff squad. We've got injuries coming out our eyeballs, and it's going to be a rough ride. I would personally just pack up Europe today and focus on getting on with the domestic stuff, mate.
Unfortunately, we can't do that because the league format, Steve-o, and that's probably why we got so far last year in the Champions League as well, is because of the league format, because of the way it was set out. Let's face it, if we were just up for one-off games like we had previously, we would probably get melted. You just need to, people are commenting on there, you just need to look at the Dortmund game and things like that when you're kind of looking back at last season's Champions League. And thank God we're not in it this year because there's a hell of a lot of goals getting scored in that Champions League, mate, honestly. Look at it, and was it Roma get scudded? Was it 6-2 or 6-3 or something? Something ridiculous the other day. And there's some harsh lessons being handed out in that Champions League. And it's just going to get that way because these bigger clubs are investing more and more and more, and they're bringing in this talent from everywhere. And it's going to get to the stage where teams like Celtic and Rangers and whoever else aren't going to be able to compete. And we find it hard to compete at the minute, but it's just getting absolutely ridiculous, the amount of money that these guys are spending. And like you say, Steve, we're going to clubs like Bruges and Lisbon and stuff to buy players from them. We shouldn't be going to them. We should be the benchmark along with them. We should be chasing the players that they're chasing, not taking the dregs for their squad. And I've said that so many times before. We need to be setting a precedent here. And we need to be looking at teams and going, right, wait a minute, we can be above that. We can do this, we can do that. And somebody said in the chat there as well, Dermot Desmond stated that every pound will be reinvested. Clearly that's not the case because you just need to look at the bank account.
Clearly it's not. And that's the thing. This is the exact thing that folk are saying here. People are saying about, what happened in Europe last season when we needed to go to the bench at times when we needed even domestically. I'm looking for January onwards, when we had to turn to the bench, we only need that quality. It just simply wasn't there. That is all 100% on the board. We've been completely doing this. And again, I think Slaven Kavi's, to be fair to you, mate, you're Slaven. He's like, why are we still talking about this? Well, we're talking about it because it's building the context around it. That is it. You're stating the obvious that I'm also stating, but you're not letting it go in there and hear it. The board are the ones that are to blame for this. The board are the ones that, stifled us in Europe because last season, decent, all right, get to the knockout, but there's games there that we should have won. Why didn't we win them? Why didn't we turn draws into wins or losses into wins? Because we didn't have the options. The bench wasn't there. As I say, we punched above our weight with a threadbare squad or a thin squad there. Now thin, mate, it's transparent. You can see right through it. That's how thin it is now. And that is the problem. And it's coming home to roost. the people at the club, the custodians, the people that are at the top that need to make the decisions, this is all just laying bare how bad things are for them. And as people are saying, as I've said, you could put any manager into Europe with this squad and it would be a complete and utter shit show. You know, you will pick up points here and there, as we've seen against Sturm Graz, but you will not go on a consistent run. You will not be a threat, and it is all because of what we've been left with. And as we say, that's why I'm saying you can pretty much just write off Europe here, because I don't want it, as daft as it sounds, and yes, there's still money to be made for picking up points and wins and draws and stuff like that, and maybe, just maybe, you could get through. But look at how bad we are for injuries, mate. Do we now need to start looking at Europe and going, right, we don't want to get embarrassed, but at the same time, how many injuries can we pick up, mate? I mean, we're another 1 or 2 injuries away from a complete and utter disaster.
Collateral damage, mate, and it's one of the things. You talk about the international breaks and things like that, and you're scared if your player goes away in international duty in case he gets injured, because it happens to us constant, especially when you've got, a lot of players travelling to America, Canada, Japan. We've got a lot of players like travelling very, very far. So for me, it's a matter of just try to keep them in, try to protect your players as much as possible. Can we bring in another player? I know you said CCV dropped out, so we were managed to bring in Callum Osmond. Looks like Osmond will be out now.
I would need to check that. I really would need to. Honestly, the honest answer is, Paddy, I do not know. I do not know. But if our squad falls under, we might be able to get someone in. Maybe somebody will be able to confirm it here. Was Osmond part of what they'd call the B pool, or because he's of a certain age where youth guys technically don't count, he can drag them in? What does that mean? What's the options there for the likes of, say, Shin Yamada, just for talking's sake?
Yeah.
Is he eligible to come back in? Let us know if you know the ins and outs. Personally, as I say, I don't necessarily know that one, but it's definitely something that we need to be thinking about, mate. Absolutely something we need to think about.
It's mental, mate. And when you think about it, if we can't bring in Shin Yamada, then we've got to be looking at having Jamesy Forrest on the right, Taneki on the left, and Dyson through the middle. That's basically our only option. And if we get another injury, we're fucked. Do you know what I mean? Basically, we're up shit creek without a paddle here. Somebody's there saying, we swap CCV for Osmond. I know that's what we're saying, but Osmond is now out. Obviously, he pulled a hammy or whatever it was. It looked a sore one for the young laddie, but
it was absolutely.
Who do we bring in now? Can we take Osmond out of the European squad and bring in another player? Let us know. I don't know how it works. I really, really don't, but I'm hoping to God that we can bring somebody in, mate, because we're on the bones of our arse as it is. And I know what you're saying, let Europe go and things like that, but I want to win everything. I want to push. I want to keep going, and I want to just try and do as good as what we can. And I want Celtic to try and win every single game, mate. Is what I'm trying to say.
Patrick's coming in, hopefully a wee bit of clarity there. He's saying that to constitute a long-term injury, we could get an emergency changeover. It needs to be substantial, about 5 months. So, is he going to be that? Probably not. Usually a hamstring, usually can be longer, is usually 8 to 12 weeks. That's the norm there. Unless it's, of course, an absolute horror bag and it's got right off the bone, then you're in serious danger. But if it's a sort of regular sort of pull or whatever on a hammy, that's normally the sort of time scale that you're talking about. But yeah, whether he comes in for Europe or we're able to do that, no, that's not going to be the case. But like when it comes to the game at the weekend, well, it's up to you. Over to you. It's going to have to be Shin Yamada. You're going to have to bring him in. You're going to have to use what you've got there, and we'll take it where it goes for there. I wonder what the fan reaction is. We can see some of the comments that are coming in here. It'll be interesting to see where because let's play the blame game here. You know, this surely for me should ramp up and again bring back into sharp focus the failings of the board. The shortcomings, the protests, they're going nowhere. And I think that, obviously, I don't want to see Celtic get beat, but see taking a scudding like that and, getting steamrolled, it brings your eyes back onto the prize. Because I'll be honest, and we've sat here and we were all clapping and enjoying it and lapping it up, the Martin O'Neill factor and stuff like that, right? But as I also said, we take it a game at a time. Take it for what it is. For me, let them run with it to the end of the season. No, come on. plug your brain in. That can't happen. It cannot happen because there's a transfer window in January. You need your actual manager that you're going to have to make the decisions. You can't have a temporary team going out and signing guys. It just simply can't happen. You also can't have club signings. Get that on the bin. Celtic need to be working on, ideally, by the start, inside the first week of the international break, new manager in the door, or at a push, if it's, for example, going to be, let's just say, Knutson, right, immediately after it. But you need to know what's going to happen. He needs to be there in place for that transfer window. And he also ideally needs to have a couple of weeks, maybe 1-2 weeks, whatever, to assess what he's got so he can really make a fist of that transfer window.
Listen, I agree with you, man. We need to have a manager in place that knows what he's going to have monetary-wise and knows what he's going to bring in. And if it's going to be a case that we are going to wait to the end of December for certain leagues winning or certain managers being left there available, I think that we need to get them in place, and we need to get them actually. I hope the board are working behind the scenes. Do you know what I mean? I really, really do. I just think we need to get it all sorted, mate, because it's a shit show at the minute. And I think Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney have done a good job coming in and stabilising things. But like you said, Steve, I wouldn't be expecting them to be the ones identifying players and signing players, because a new manager comes in and then he's not happy, obviously, with the players that's there, and you get a whole Brendan Rodgers situation again where he's not playing players because he didn't sign them and he didn't like them and all of that kind of guff. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those things, mate. And
I mean, there's a mix. And listen, I'm not by any way, shape, or form criticising Martin O'Neill. You know, I've been praising him. I'm just saying, I think long term we need to plug our heads in. We can't run with a temporary team. We just simply can't. Not when there's still a transfer window to be had. Not when there's opportunity to really hit the ground running, get a new manager in, and embed new plans to move forward. That's where I'm at with it. I think they're doing as good as a job as we could get. The results past two, phenomenal. What a turnaround, definitely. I think, particularly the game against Rangers, in my opinion, a game that we wouldn't have been able to win had it still been Brendan Rodgers. So I am fully grateful for that. I appreciate the job. A man of 73 years of age coming into, got to this level of stress and all this garbage that he clearly, let's be honest, could really be doing without. But no, I appreciate it, but I just think they need to start moving forward and they need to get it in a lot quicker. That's what I'm talking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly, mate. And listen, we have got a lot of players out injured as well at the minute. Obviously expecting guys like Alistair Johnson back and Jota back and things like that. But like you'd highlighted before, this is down to the board. This is down to the failings of the Celtic board. We didn't strengthen in positions that we knew we needed to. Obviously letting guys like Kyogo go, letting guys like Kuhn go, and not bringing in specific replacements or guys who are up to the same standard. We spoke about this all of last year and all of the year before. It's all about having a like for like and taking off someone like Alistair Johnson and bringing on a replacement of like for like. Tony Ralston isn't a like for like for Alistair Johnson. It really isn't. So for me, mate, I think we just need to get it all sorted. We really need to have the players in place and just get it sorted, because it's starting to show, and it's starting to show now.
Yeah, no, this is the thing. I think it is starting to show, and it's. I think you can't really criticise the coaching team for tonight. You just can't. As I say it again, once, twice, three times, four times, fifth time's a charm. Could be any manager tonight, mate. Any manager. We came up against a far more up for its side, far more better drilled, playing better. Everything together. It's as simple as that. I just think that tonight was almost, and I hate the term, a bit of a free hit. I says that I felt that a draw would be a good result, of course. I said a win would have really ignited the season from a European standpoint, and clearly it didn't happen. I'm being honest with you, and I've said it earlier on, I'll say it again. Obviously, I want to do well in every game, but at this moment in time, Celtic just need to sort of, band on the hatches. They need to make sure that the domestic stuff between now and the transfer window is the priority over it. I don't want to see scuddings in Europe, but we need to sort of balance in the way that Ange Postecoglou, when they were, a different circumstance, of course, basically realised that domestically wasn't going to happen for them. Let's focus on Europe. Well, maybe we need to think Europe's not happening for us. Focus on domestic, mate.
Aye, that's it, mate. At the end of the day, the domestic football's your bread and butter, and that's what you need to sort out. We need to sort out the domestic football. We need to sort out where we're going forward for here. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a shit show, but at the end of the day, the game today, we'll get down to the goal that we actually did score, Steve-O. Callum Osmond, fantastic going into the box. I thought he played really, really well. I thought he showed that desire again to push and to get forward. Commits a defender, takes him on, and it's a Stonewall penalty. You're getting that all day long. I was a bit worried when Rio Hatate stepped up to take it as well. Obviously, Hatate, a guy who has been struggling the last wee while, but then when you look at who we had on, there was no Engels, there was no Negrin, there was no Iheanacho. It was basically Rio or probably Casper that would have been up there to take it. Actually, he slots it away. Not the best penalty we've seen, but he puts it away. And at that point, I thought maybe we could have pushed on and maybe stole another goal and put a bit of pressure on them, a bit of squeaky bum time.
You've told me, you've taken the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask about that when the goal comes around for us. It's quite late on in the game. It's scant consolation. Was there ever, did it install? Well, clearly it did. Maybe install a wee bit of faith in it. I just thought a consolation goal.
No, I thought we could have pushed on, mate. I thought, you know what, right, that's us. We've got one. Obviously, when Rio runs for the ball, I thought, right, that's it. We bit of bite, we bit of passion here. Let's push forward, boys. Let's get it done. But they seem to then get the ball and just kind of not really do much with it again. Midtjylland kind of got control of the game and started passing the ball about again and just basically done what they've been doing the full game and put us under that pressure. I think Midtjylland there, is somebody in the chat as well, nailed it. Midtjylland took the foot off the gas, and it did look like that. They were the team, obviously. They done to us what we've been doing to teams in the league. Basically beat us the first half and then went, right, that'll do, boys, just go out and enjoy the game. And that's kind of roughly what happened. The game kind of just eased out for there. Couple of wee chances and again, couple of good saves for Casper. Like you said, I thought he had a relatively good game, but the be all and end all is, mate, it's not good enough and we don't have the squad depth to push on for here. So, yeah.
No, listen, getting your thoughts there. Paddy, I'm going to ask you, obviously, you said there were some positives, which I found a wee bit funny, and we'll get into them. Get the comments. What did you generally think of tonight? Was it a free hit? Was it, neither here nor there? Are you overly bored about Europe? And as she says, where are you at with the sort of, where's your priorities? Does it completely lie domestically as I've got? Get the comments in and involved. I will say, I don't normally do it and bring it out because I don't normally give the auction this kind of thing. I'm really confused with you, Slabbin. Really, really, really confused. What do we need our heads sorted for? Do tell. Disagree, as I say, there's a wee bit of context around it. If you're literally trying to say that we're half or nut or whatever, then it's a wee bit ignorant because I don't necessarily know what you've been listening to, but as always, I think we've shown our reason and our working here. Do share.
I don't know what's going on with that, mate. But listen, at the end of the day, like I say, some positives to take for it, Steve. If you look at the amount of shots this mob had, the amount of crosses they had into the box, I felt like Trusty done okay, Scales done okay as well, getting the ball back out there. And they were heading it back into kind of dangerous positions and things like that. But at the end of the day, you just really want the ball to get punted out there. You really want to get rid of it. And that for me was where it all kind of started off. I thought Arne Engels again was okay, but not brilliant. Tsenecki had a decent enough game, just not the finished article.
Do you think, I said this, and listen, I'm not criticising the guy and writing him off or anything like that. He is constantly trying to be positive. I will say that he's constantly trying to be positive. And again, I know that defenders at times have been doubling up and making it more and more difficult for him for game to game to game. But I still feel that as much as he gives a lot of energy, he gives a lot of effort, I'm still not seeing any end product out of him.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I've got a wee bit of an issue there with. We've seen a couple of goals from him and obviously some decent performances, but we need a wee bit more end product out of him. It's nice to have a guy that wants to take on somebody, maybe beat a player, cut back, beat the same player again, move forward, but we just need a wee bit more. It's fine going past players, but it needs to go somewhere, Paddy. That's the only thing I'm concerned for. Because if he could add that, if he could just put that extra wee cherry on top to the effort that he's going, brilliant. Other than that, he's just a guy that has been busy, but with no massive impact.
Yeah. What was it we say? The Tunisian Louis Palmer, something like that. He gets forward. He looks good on the ball. He's got a bit of a showcase about him. He's got a bit of style. But yes, at the end of the day, we do need to see a better end product. We do need to see a better finish from him. He gets into good positions. He puts the ball about good. He's decent, but he's not, like you say, Steve, he's not the finished article. There's a lot to learn in there. There really, really is. There's a lot of things that the young lad needs to sharpen up on, and I think he will. I think he'll become a good player. I think obviously when Jota comes back in, it'll be good to see they two either fighting for a position or working with each other. I think that would be a good option to have on the right-hand side, Taneki, and then Jota on the left. Seeing something like that, I think would be pretty good going forward. But aye, that's kind of the positives for me. Obviously, Casper as well. Yes, conceded 3 goals, but saved quite a lot and was in the right positions. So that's the kind of wee positives that I'll take for the game. But at the end of the day, mate, yes, it's not good enough. Yes, it's a defeat in Europe to a team who do I think will win it. No, I don't. But I think they'll go quite far. I think they'll push through and maybe quarterfinals.
Definitely. I want to talk about a few other guys. There's been constant criticisms. Folk have not liked it. Is Balikwisha, where do we go with Balikwisha?
Yeah.
Where do we go with that, mate?
Again, he looked all right going forward. There was one of the bits where he was in
In fact, Paddy, hold on. I'm just going to jump in here. I'm just going to end this really quickly, right? Because I can see there's... I hate doing this. Apologies to everybody on the stream that's been, sort of not needy, right? But, Slabburn, we're just simply not going to have a back and forward on the thing, right? I don't know if you're emotional, a bit annoyed about the result or whatever, but a wee bit of common decency, as we always say. In the chat, we're open to all different opinions, but at least have a bit of common decency and just stop being ignorant, mate, right? Just stop being ignorant. Stop with the personalised stuff. Shut the fuck up. Now, I don't know what you're wanting to watch, mate. There's plenty of podcasts on. Go away and find another one, right? Okay? That's what it says. We appreciate you coming in and watching it. But you have literally just wanted to shout and rant about the board. We've covered the board. We've spoke about the board multiple times. We've spoke about the need to change. We then talk about how it hindered us last season, this season. You can't talk about it last season. You can't talk about now, live in the present. Can't win with you, mate. Just can't win with you. So if it's not your bag, to the loo, up the road, honestly, I'm not that kind of guy. This is my point. It's just we're not that kind of guy, and I really don't like doing this because it's not our style. But come on, guys, as we say, we're not here to tell you we're right and you're wrong and vice versa. Let's meet somewhere in the middle and have an adult debate instead of just, this petty, stupid comments. And the comments got fast and freaking fast. And I went back and I watched them and I listened to them. I couldn't really figure out what you were trying to say. You were just unhappy with what was said. And fortunately, we do streams where that happens, where we are between a rock and a hard place. Doesn't matter what we say, what we cover, people ain't happy. And clearly, tonight, mate, you just aren't happy.
The thing is, Steve, listen, it's nice to come onto a podcast and talk after we've won a game, especially see after the weekend there, after we beat the Rangers in the Cup.
Exactly.
Loads of stuff to talk about. Absolutely brilliant. And it makes this so easy to come on and go, yes, brilliant performance. Look at this, look at that. Take this positive, take that positive. Brilliant, blah, 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 blah. When you come on after a game like this and you have to sieve through shit to try and look for a positive out of that game, which I am trying to do.
I know you're trying that. I appreciate it, Paddy.
There's not a lot of people out there who would actually sit and look for a positive, but I think when we have guys like Martin O'Neill in at the club and Sean Maloney doing a fantastic job that they are, I think you've got to try and look for positives, because if you said it at the beginning, Steve, a Brendan Rodgers side gets absolutely melted.
I genuinely believe that. I do.
I think it would have been a kind of Bruges type performance when we played them and got absolutely schooled. And you've seen that. Brendan Rodgers was way out of his depth in that game, mate. He did not have a clue how to change it, but he waited again to the 60th minute or the 66th minute to put on his subs, and then they subs come on and they didn't make an impact. Yeah. We changed things rapidly. We changed things at half time. Callum Osman come on. Daiza Maeda come on. You've seen the attacking intent. Something like, wait a minute, we're actually going to go for this here. You're 3-0 down. What the fuck do you expect you're going to do? Do you know what I mean? Put the players on and just go, do you know what? Let's go for it. If you get beat 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, no bother. At least you went out and went for it. We went out there, yes, we still lost the game, but it was only 3-1. We went out the second half and we played a hell of a lot better. Yes, Midtjylland took their foot off the gas. Yes.
I think that's fair to say.
It was a game to fuck all, really, at that point. But it's just one of the things where you've got to try and scrape together positives, and people in the chat are going to be, well, I didn't agree with that, I didn't agree with that. That's absolutely fine. Listen, I don't really care if people agree with what I say or they don't, but at the end of the day, mate, Celtic tonight, I thought played okay. They got beat off the better team, and that's it.
Yes.
The better team won the game tonight. Yes, we won the second half. Brilliant. Gives a trophy. I mean, that's it.
Other clubs would claim a trophy for that, Paddy.
Yeah, other clubs would claim a trophy. The Pride trophy, or the second half trophy, or the what was it?
The bragging rights, the moral
victory trophy.
That's that. Aye.
You can claim whatever you want for it, but at the end of the day, Steve, second half was a wee bit better. For me, taken out of it, seeing the changes coming in fast was good for me. That was a positive that I'll take from it as well. For the managerial side, might have not impacted the game completely, but we made the changes early, and that's what I want to see going forward. It says to me that even if we're playing in the league and we're playing against a Dundee side with 10 men behind the ball, if we get to the second half, we can fire out a different team in the second half to try and do something. If we've got the players, that is. Obviously if our players are only pulling up hammies and fucking everything else. But yes, I think that going forward, I think we need to embrace the change, embrace what's happening at the club, because Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney are just in the door. Let's face it. This game, I think, came a wee bit too soon for them.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Listen, Paddy, I'm just going to say, with all greatest amount of respect to one of the commenters, we'll see you around the block, mate, all right? Because this isn't about, as you say, getting above your station. I don't know what you're reading between the comments I'm having. I'm trying to engage with you because I don't have time to sit there and type away and all that kind of stuff at you. As I say, I really don't know, because it's very unlike you. But it's just, it's taking a wee bit by surprise, to be honest with you, about you getting upset, offended. I'm not upset or offended. I just want to see a wee bit of common decency in the chat, whether it's to fellow commenters or ourselves on screen. That's it. That's what I'm asking for. I'm not going to sit here and wag the big pointy finger and try to talk down to folks. No, my style. As I says, I don't normally like to do it. Southern Cabbage is an ex-subscriber because he's just turned into a complete and utter, ignoramus now, unfortunately. So, see you later, brother. Thanks for watching. I don't know. Listen, I hate doing that. As I says, I don't really know what the deal is here, guys. If you're commenting, just keep it sort of nice. Do you know what I mean? Is that a big ask? That's all I'm saying. I just don't understand where he went down a sort of weird, sort of windy road. And that's
we've had Rangers fans
we do this in our spare time. We do this in our spare time. Can't be bothered and entertaining back and forward garbage like that. All right. And I hope you don't ever feel that we are the type that are waggy fingers and we're trying to sort of tell everybody, what to do and how to talk and all that kind of stuff. All we ask for is a wee bit of common decency to those that are taking the time to comment and ourselves that are on screen. That's it.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. I bet he goes over to watch on TikTok now as well, because I'm on there. See if he starts getting me comments, I'll buff him.
Throw some abuse in all. Terrible. Anyway, listen, I'd also just want to apologise once again to all you beautiful people that are watching out here, because that's a sideshow. I don't want to have to go and do that, but at the same time, I have to give some sort of level of chat with people when things are there. I can't just type away and be ignorant and not engage. So it's easier, as much as I don't like it, to turn around and say it. So, but Paddy, to finish us up, you were trying to look for positives. I never really got them out yet, other than we didn't get scudded. So what do you think then? Hit me with these positives, mate.
Like I say, mate, positives for me were Kasper Schmeichel had an all right game. He conceded 3 goals, but he saved a hell of a lot. On another day, that could have been an absolute scudding. Again, Tony Ralston, I know he didn't have the best game, but he showed that he's willing to put himself in the way. We want to hit him in the face, and he puts himself about, and he just gives you 110%. And I feel like you just get that all the time. Even at a shot, Steve-o, that was maybe a foot by the post, could have went either way. It could have been one of the ones where it's sneaked in, and the guy's an absolute hero. Trusty and Scales, I felt, dealt with quite a lot in the box. I thought they'd done relatively well today. Obviously, a few mistakes here and there, obviously, that led to the goal. Kieran Tierney still seems a little bit off it. I thought he played okay up against Kevin and Babu, but I think
that's going to be unpopular. That's going to be unpopular, that view, Paddy. But I think we need to be honest here. I think Kieran Tierney isn't. He's not living up to the billing so far, unfortunately. And
no,
I think
he's not. But
he didn't
have a terrible game, mate. He didn't have an absolute terrible game.
I know,
he done okay at points. He was more willing to press players and not let them into the box than what Tony Ralston and stuff was. And I think they need to kind of look at that, and they need to analyse that. Do I think Sarachi would have been the better option? Yes, I do. But obviously he's been carrying an injury. Obviously he's been carrying a bit of injury in there. Callum McGregor again tonight didn't really fill me with enthusiasm. I think he just nonchalantly went about the game. Arne Engels committed too many fouls for me. But again, he probably had to because he wasn't getting much help from anywhere else. I thought that Benjamin Nygren was a bit of a passenger. I thought Tanecki done okay, but again, lacks the end product. Kenny, again, wasn't getting the service, so couldn't really do much. And then Jamesy Forrest does what Jamesy Forrest does, but again, wasn't really getting on the ball much. So that's kind of where I'm at with the game, mate. And it was a hard one to sit there and divulge through. It really was. And we've said it before, it's like trying to take the good parts out of a shit. And that's kind of how it was, mate. I mean, it was a tough one to actually sit and try to digest, but we try our best and we take what we can.
To sort of close it up and bring it home, did we learn anything at all for tonight that we probably didn't already know? And what I mean by that is look, it's not hardly a takeaway. This squad is on its feet, and it all is upstairs. That's it. It's all upstairs, and really, they have hindered Brendan Rodgers at this moment in time. They will hinder our temporary team because in games like this, they may not have the options. In fact, they do not have the options to go and do it. And as I said, it could be any manager. So that isn't really a takeaway from it. It really isn't a takeaway from it. But did you feel that you learned anything new? Because, of course, people criticising, the way that the narrative will be wanting to spun about that's the bubble burst, that's the new manager bounce, over and done with already. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think so. I think Celtic picked themselves up against Kilmarnock. I expect us to go and give a good performance and sweep them aside. So, did you learn anything at all, Paddy? If that's...
I learned that we are quite happy to change things. And again, that's another positive it'll take, Steve. Like I said, we change things early. We're fucking lacking. I learned that we're lacking in players big time. And that showed again. That was one of the things that we already knew was happening, but it just kind of tonight when you see tiny injuries coming in, like the injury to Osmond, and as soon as anybody else gets tapped, mate, you're shiting yourself. Do you know what I mean? You're really, really scared. Even if we get an injury to somebody like Ralston, even if you don't rate him as a defender, he's pretty much all we've got other than young Donovan, who when he came in, along with Dane Murray, people can talk about them as much as they want, but they came in and got their arse felt.
We're in a very precarious position, Paddy. Now, here's a question for you. Again, talking about that. Inamura, given how desperate things are looking, because, as you said, we're an injury away from, Tierney, Sarachi, or Ralston to be really, really, really in danger.
Yeah.
Do you try to integrate an Inamura back in there so that you've maybe got a wee bit of flexibility, where you could maybe use Sarachi on the right if you really needed to, and you could maybe, for lesser games, so to speak, domestically, maybe try Inamura in there or something? Do you see anything like that maybe happening?
I think you have to. And you're talking about bringing Shin Yamada out of cold storage as well, mate. I think you need to be looking at these guys and actually getting it sorted. Now, I don't know, when can you call back a loan player? Can you do it mid-season? Can you bring them in now? Or do we need to wait to January? I don't know, because we're going to need to start looking at bringing in people. If it's bringing people in for the youth, if it's bringing people in fucking anywhere, wherever we can, pull them for the stands if you have to. We need people in there who are going to do a job for Celtic, mate. And at this minute in time, due to the lack of investment and the lack of ambition for this board, we're on the bones of our arse. We really are. And as much as people don't want to really admit it or get down to the dirty stuff of it, that's what it's coming down to. And the games are just going to come thick and fast. After the international break, I think we start to ramp up again. We start to see the 2 games a week coming back in thick and fast. And it's one of these things, mate, where we're going to be running on very much the bones of the bones of an RCA team. Do you know what I mean? It's tough, mate. It's a really tough situation to be in.
The big question that I said, or the big sort of statement that I made at the start was, I think it's important, international break, ideally midway through, start off, you want to get your manager an absolute push. You've got a timeline where you've got it in. Other than, as I said, getting forward planning with a view that January transfer window, does a new manager coming in immediately soon, does it really change anything what you can do with that, or is it still just a case of damage limitation? The only advantage is you've got your manager being able to really assess what's around them.
For me, again, it would damage limitation, mate. We need to get to January. We need to get to the January transfer window, staying in touch with Hearts at the beginning of this. We need to be in touching distance of Hearts in the league. We've got a cup final coming up as well against St Mirren. Listen, St Mirren aren't going to roll over and let us tickle their belly. No, they're really not. They're going to be up for that. It's a cup final. They don't get too many of them. That for them is a massive opportunity for silverware, and they'll be right up for it. So we need to be at the top of our game up until January. Bringing in a new manager might cause some problems, but we need to keep pushing on this. We need him in quickly. I agree with that. We need to get a manager in, somebody who's going to identify the players that he wants to bring in, instead of bringing a manager in, like you say, end of December and going, right, there you go, this is your team. He works with the players for 2 weeks and goes, right, I want this guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy. Do you know what I mean? Or, like you said, he comes in and the board have already decided his signings.
And that's certainly something we can't afford to be doing.
Definitely, mate. But listen, it's something we've done before. It's one of these things that we see happening all the time at Celtic, and it's just shit, mate.
Well, Paddy, listen, thank you for joining us. Thank you for everybody else for taking time. I know that there was pretty much every other podcast was out there, so we really appreciate you taking the time to sit and watch us live here. And of course, if you're catching up further down the line, then thank you for taking the time to watch us. Hit the subscribe button, get a wee like, share it out there. As we said, connect elsewhere on our other socials. And for those that are listening and watching along on TikTok, as we said, there's nearly 4,500 of you over there. Get yourself over and hit the subscribe here and help boost those numbers there. We're so close to 3,000. And if a handful of you guys on there done that, then, well, we will do that in jig time. So thank you very much to everybody for taking the time to do it. Thanks to you, Paddy, for jumping in. I know that you will now be going away to the middle of the North Sea as of tomorrow. So this last day is massive. And you need to get back to your good lady and your family for one last night with them before you do it. So thank you for doing it. Thanks for trying to be positive, Paddy. I think we'll just scratch this one up to as a big hurdle that maybe just came a wee bit too soon. Europe will be where it'll be here. The main focus is repairing the damage domestically and getting ourselves through to the January without any further hiccups. Is that fair to say?
100%, mate. Absolutely spot on. Get the manager in as soon as possible, and let's rebuild this shit show that the board have left us with.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, take care of yourselves. Enjoy, if I'm sure you'll go and stick it on if it's not already on the background, the remainder of the Baddies match. All the laughing, they got it out their system early. As I say, they maybe went a wee bit too early. Should have kept their powder dry. We can all just laugh at each other of being crap in Europe. But one thing, scant consolation, we're not going to be sitting at the bottom of the table at the end of the night. So take that as you find it. So until the next time, take care of yourself. And as always, Paddy boy.
Hail, hail, guys.